What's going on? Curious young people, I'm sure that if you like curiosities, you must like history. And if you like history, you should be fascinated by historical photos. For this and much more, these are 50 historical photos you have to see. Number 1. A seemingly simple kiss between two people has a great story behind it. The woman is kissing an American soldier returning home aboard the United States Monticello ship. It was the actress Marlene Dietrich, a German woman who had helped fight against the Nazis in World War II No. 2. This is what the Apollo mission's space rocket looked like 11 minutes after liftoff. This space mission was historic as it marked the first time humans walked on the moon. And in the photograph, we can see the incredible power that this spacecraft had. 3. Nowadays, we have all the information on the internet, and with a simple mobile phone, we can do whatever we want. In the past, before the abundance of technology, things appeared more complex and challenging. 6 National Aeronautics and Space Administration scientists, along with their calculation table 4. Luckily, nowadays there are quite a few regulations about the pets people can have, but a few years ago there wasn't so much control. And this photo shows the legendary Hollywood actress Audrey Hepburn shopping in a supermarket along with her deer, I-5, what might look like a movie set. The photo shows a teen holding an Avtomat Kalashnikova, 47, and smoking at a funeral in Sarajevo's Lion Cemetery. All of this happened during the Bosnian War, which took place between 1992 and 1995, claiming the lives of thousands of people. 6. After World War II, those exiled during the war sought to return home. And that's how you see a group of Japanese people who are walking through a train station in California. 7 people are going to the airport to return to their homeland and start anew. Machu Picchu, a popular tourist destination in South America, has ruins that are now adapted for tourism, even though this is how they looked in 1912 when American explorer Hiram Berkman discovered this curious place. This is how some of the shop owners in the Korean neighborhood in Los Angeles looked, taking defensive positions to confront the protesters with weapons. During the Rodney King riots in 1992, the conflict erupted due to a racist attack on an American taxi driver earlier that year. 9. Yes, are you seeing this right? A dog was flying through the air after jumping to cross a trench in the middle of a battle during World War I. These dogs were trained to deliver messages on the battlefield and had the ability to jump and climb the large trenches. 10. Johnny Cash was one of the most important singers of the 20th century and was considered the king of country music. He made sure to sing in every possible place. And in this photo, we see him singing and playing the guitar for a few prisoners at Folsom Prison, California in 1968. One of the most tense moments for any soldier is the moment right before arriving at the battlefield. This photograph shows a group of United States Marines viewing a woman's picture in a magazine shortly before reaching the shores of Tarawa. During World War II, although wars have always been between people, animals have always been very important on the battlefield. And in this case, we can see a group of German soldiers having some fun while dressing up a service dog during the World War II. 13. A seemingly simple family gathering has a tragic story behind it. Because what we see is a poor survivor of the Spring Hill mining disaster, reuniting with his daughter and wife after spending 5 days trapped underground. We have to know that the collapse of the Spring Hill mine ended the lives of 75 people. 14. In the photo, we see Adolf Hitler meeting with the Czech president, Emil Hácha, but they hadn't met to talk about positive things. In this meeting, Hitler dictated the terms of Czechoslovakia's surrender as Germany was poised to invade. In 1939, one of humanity's darkest periods occurred when slavery still existed. And in this case, we see a British sailor cutting the chains on a poor man's leg with a saw. This photo is from the late 1800s after slavery was abolished. 16. Tattoo studios in the United States today prioritize hygiene and safety, but this was not the case a few years ago. A tattoo artist not wearing gloves and smoking, with the client and his friend present. 17. What might seem to be just an ordinary man in an old-fashioned swimsuit is actually a photo of Al Capone at his Palaland mansion in 1929. Al Capone, one of history's most notorious mobsters, ended up in Alcatraz prison due to his life of crime. 18. Fortunately, nowadays working conditions have changed a lot. Images like this are now impossible. The photo shows worker Carl Russell sitting on a beam of the Empire State Building, 360 meters high, during its construction in 1930. And yes, in case you were wondering, the lack of safety made construction one of the deadliest jobs of the time. 19. Zoos were becoming more and more abandoned because humans managed to evolve and understand their place in the world. But before, things were very different. And that's how a girl looked as she walked with a penguin at the London Zoo in 1937-20. When traveling to a tourist spot, it's common to eat typical food at a street stall. But this, let's say, is something very, very old. And this is how a typical Italian food stall looked on the streets of Harlem in New York in 1955-21. The photograph shows over 500,000 people in Manege Square, Moscow, demanding the resignation of Soviet President Mikhail Khrushchev and his communist colleagues. In the spring of 1991, a few months before the dissolution of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, before taking this photo, Karakli had encountered a leopard and after fighting for a few minutes ended up killing it with his own hands in his attempt to survive. He then had it embalmed and donated to a museum. 23. Fighting in World War II can't be easy, and having to peel hundreds of onions isn't either. So these soldiers in Tobruk, Libya in 1941 had the great idea to put on their gas masks so they wouldn't cry while cutting them. 24. What might look like a perfect recreation for a poster or a magazine is actually a photo taken in 1939 at a gas station in Gordontown, North Carolina. The image depicts the owner, his employees, and 2 fuel pumps to service passing vehicles. 25. Lyndon B. Johnson is yelling at the pilots of a nearby plane to turn off their engines so that John F. Kennedy can speak. This is what happened during the 1960 presidential campaign in Amarillo, Texas. Since the politicians had chosen the airport runway as their stage. 26. Although alcoholic beverages are easily accessible in most countries today, in the United States, prohibition was enforced from 1920 to 1933. And in this photo, you can see some very well-known movie actors celebrating the end of prohibition in 1933. What you see in the photos is not a corpse, but rather one of the 2 bronzes, Riachi. These were 2 bronze statues from the year 1400, which were found in the Sea of Calabria, Italy, by an amateur diver in 1972. The photo shows a boy wearing a Native American hat. Coming out of a coal chute on a sidewalk in the United States. These chutes were used to easily deliver coal to different houses. A few years ago, 29. What might look like a grand hall was actually the luxurious first-class lounge of the legendary ocean liner Titanic. 30. Despite the negativity of World War I, Jewish soldiers from the German and Austro-Hungarian armies organized Hanukkah celebrations. 31. The person we see in the photo is a Mongolian shaman in 1909. Shamans in Mongolia are still very common today. It's just that most of them don't dedicate their entire lives to this culture, but prefer to maintain an ordinary appearance in society. During the Bosnian War, 32 women were part of the sniper line. And in this case, we see a 20-year-old teenager loading his rifle in a safe room in Sarajevo. In 1992, 33. The driver of the car is former United States President Lyndon B. Johnson. And yes, it was an amphibious car, one of the 4,000 amphibious cars that were produced in Germany during the 1960s, 34. What might seem like a simple photo of a woman is actually a photo taken of Princess Elizabeth II at Buckingham Palace when she was 20 years old. In 1946-35, during 1937 and 1938, Japan invaded China under the pretext of expanding its territory. And in this conflict, something as terrible as the use of Chinese prisoners occurred as bayonet practice targets. 36. Even though wars involve millions of people. In this photo, we see a lone American soldier in the Ardennes forest in Belgium during the World War II. 37. What might seem like 2 simple workers taking a break actually has much more history behind it. Knowing that due to World War II, women began to take on jobs that previously only men did, like in this case, at a sawmill. 38. The photo shows Kurt Cobain, the famous singer and leader of Nirvana, visiting Williamsburg at his Kansas home in 1993. He was among the most renowned American writers and critics of his era. 39. The Olympic Games, one of the oldest events still held today. And, in this case, 3 men running toward a large photograph of the first marathon in the Summer Olympic Games of 1896. 40. John F. Kennedy, the 35th United States President, had a life marked by tragedies, but also some joyful times. As seen in this photo from his Harvard graduation at age 41. This is not a science fiction movie, but rather a group of pilots dressed in full pressure suits necessary in order to fly. The Strategic Reconnaissance, 71 spy planes capable of reaching an altitude of 24,000 meters. General Motors is one of the most legendary automotive companies in the United States. In 1956, the technical center of a Detroit factory looked super futuristic for the time. 43. If you don't recognize him, this is Steve Buscemi, a fairly well-known supporting actor in Hollywood, who in 1980 was not working as an actor, but was part of the New York City Fire Department. 44. Although nowadays electricity has taken over most cities, in the past, lighting was achieved with gas street lamps. This 1962 photo shows a worker responsible for lighting the various lamps in the center of London. 45. We owe these 2 men a lot for having created 2 of the best companies in all of history. Steve Jobs and Bill Gates met at Jobs' house in Palo Alto, California, to discuss the future of computers. In 1991, 46. Fortunately, today there isn't as much discrimination as there was a few years ago against people of color. And in this photo from 1960, we see a clear example of how these situations were experienced in everyday places. 47. Today there are laws that protect nature, but before, when there wasn't such control, we had shocking photos like these, where a group of lumberjacks pose after having felled some immense sequoias in California. 48. In the photo, we see a group of American soldiers walking hand in hand with Dutch children dressed in traditional clothes. These children belong to an orphanage that the soldiers visited at the end of World War II. 49. Harry Houdini was, without a doubt, one of the most renowned illusionists and escape artists in all of history, and among all the numbers he had. His specialty was handcuffs and chains, as we see in the photo, when he posed for a photographer in 1899. 50. These kids weren't practicing Greco-Roman wrestling, they were simply learning how to swim. In a school courtyard in England, early 1920s Before I go, let me say hello to some subscribers. First of all, a big hello to Rodrigo LP Next, another greeting for Manuel Rosas. Also, a big hello to Javier de la Cruz Abreu. Another greeting for Melissa España, who has waited a long time for her greeting. Finally, hello to the match. Another big hello to Daniel Villafuerte. And the last greeting goes to the awesome Calixto. Leave a like and comment anything you want. Share the channel and video with your friends. So now more kisses and keep following Curiosity. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss any new videos. Are you no longer curious?